Hello friends. Today we have Caroline's story. She died and saw why some Christians might not make it at Judgment Day. Please watch until the end to understand her full experience. My name is Caroline. Ever since I was little, church felt like home to me. I loved God with all my heart and everyone knew it. I was always the first person to help with anything. Need someone to plan the youth trip? I would raise my hand right away. Need extra voices for the Easter choir? I would clear my schedule without thinking twice. But I also got interested in politics. It started small with talking about current events and arguing about social issues. But it grew bigger over time. I saw politics as a way to fight for justice and fairness. These seemed like Christian values to me. One Sunday after church I stayed to talk with friends. We stopped talking about the sermon and started talking about the upcoming elections. I argued strongly that Christians need to get involved in politics. I even used Bible verses to make my point. Everything I did, whether at church, work, or in political talks, I believed I was doing for God. My love for church work and my interest in politics seemed to go together perfectly. To me, ministry and politics were just two ways to make a difference in the world. But the more I got into politics, the more my faith in politics got mixed up. At first it was small. I started caring more about political debates than Bible study. I began using Bible verses not to help my own heart but to win arguments. What used to be sacred truth became a tool to prove my point. This affected my relationship with God too. My prayers got shorter and less heartfelt. I still went to church but my mind was split. During sermons I would think about meetings, campaigns, or chances to speak up about issues. The inner fight got louder. I would open my Bible looking for peace but the words felt far away. In quiet moments I couldn't ignore the tension in my soul. I felt like I was no longer standing on solid spiritual ground. One night this conflict came to a head. I sat at my desk looking at emails about a political event. It was scheduled at the same time as an important church service I had promised to attend. The choice should have been easy but I struggled with it. In the end I chose the political event. The meeting that night ran late. This was normal since our group got passionate and talks often went past midnight. When we finally finished it was almost midnight and everyone was tired. I gathered my things, said quick goodbyes and headed home. The drive home felt endless. Out of nowhere a small animal ran into the road. It happened so fast, just a blur of fur in my headlights. My heart jumped and without thinking I jerked the wheel to avoid hitting it. The car swerved hard. I tried to get control but it was too late. The car skidded off the road, hit a ditch, and flipped over. When it stopped I was hanging upside down, held by my seatbelt. Pain shot through my body and I could taste blood. My hands shook as I tried to unbuckle the seatbelt but it wouldn't move. Then the struggle left me and was replaced by a strange quiet. The pain seemed to fade, or maybe I just stopped feeling it. My body felt distant, like a shell I was slowly leaving. The world around me got dim and for a moment I felt like I was watching myself from somewhere else. I saw my broken body hanging there but I felt no anger or fear, just a weird weightless peace. Then everything went still. Life as I knew it faded away. When I opened my eyes I wasn't in the car anymore. At least not just in the car. Felt like I was floating, weightless. Around me I saw other people nearby. They moved like shadows. Some looked at me briefly but their eyes showed no recognition. They seemed lost but not in a normal way. Like they were searching for something they couldn't name. I tried to call out but no sound came. It was like my voice didn't exist in this strange place. Instead I felt pulled forward by an invisible force. Ahead of me something began to take shape. A staircase. It seemed to rise from nothing, each step glowing softly as if lit from inside. As I climbed the glowing steps I became aware of how vast this place was. Ahead of me the line of souls became clearer. Men, women, and even children. No one spoke. In the distance I could see figures. Angels. They stood at what looked like the top of the steps, dealing with each soul as they arrived. From where I was I could see the line moving forward. Each soul stepped into an unseen doorway where their deeds were shown. Some were sent to the right, others were thrown to the left. As I climbed closer I saw the grim purpose of this line. I watched each person step forward and pause before the angels who stood with bright authority. The first soul I noticed was small, a child no older than 12. I watched as soul after soul stepped forward. Each one's story played out in a brief moment. It wasn't about how they looked or what titles they had. Some begged silently, their faces full of desperation, but there was no arguing here. No chance to explain or negotiate. Others accepted their judgment quietly, as if they had known it all along. With each soul I learned something new about what determined these eternal destinies. It wasn't about what people claimed to believe or what religious rituals they did. It was about whether their faith was real, whether their hearts were truly changed, and whether their lives showed that truth. Some souls clung to their excuses, listing the good things they had done or the ways they appeared righteous. But the angels revealed the hidden motives. The pride, the bitterness, the half-hearted devotion. These were the ones sent to the left. The few who entered rest seemed different, almost glowing even before they reached the angels. Their lives weren't perfect, but they had been marked by real faith and a commitment to living according to that faith. As I stood watching these fates unfold, I began to understand something deeply troubling about the judgments being made. Each soul that was cast away carried a story, a lesson about the dangers of misunderstanding what it truly means to follow God. The condemned were not necessarily the obviously evil people, but those who had fallen short in ways that weren't immediately obvious. I saw 5 clear lessons from those sent to the left. The first soul was a lukewarm believer. This person had claimed faith, but their life told a different story. They went through the motions of religion, attending church and saying they believed, but their heart was detached. They never fully gave themselves to God's will. They let worldly distractions take priority over their commitment. When judgment came, there was no fire in their spirit, no passion for the Lord. They were neither hot nor cold, and in their indifference they were lost. The second soul was a hypocrite. Someone who pointed fingers at others for their faults while ignoring their own. They built their identity around being morally superior but were quick to judge and criticize, not realizing that judgment wasn't theirs to give. When the truth of their life was revealed, it showed a heart full of pride and bitterness, masked by outward acts of goodness. They had been fooled into thinking their judgments of others somehow made them righteous. Their condemnation came from their failure to recognize their own need for grace. Next was a soul that seemed religious at first glance. A person who followed all the rituals and said all the right words but never truly repented. They were caught up in religious habits, but their heart was far from the change that repentance brings. They thought their actions alone could save them, not realizing that without true repentance they were just pretending at faith. The angels revealed how they had been indifferent to the call for genuine change, and their refusal to turn away from sin led to their downfall. Then came the legalist, someone who trusted in their own righteousness. This person had followed every rule perfectly, measuring their worth by their perfect obedience to religious laws. They took pride in their external obedience, believing their works could earn them favor. But they had missed the heart of God's commands, the love, mercy, and grace that went beyond just following rules. They stood before the angels blind to their own arrogance. As the truth was revealed, salvation was never about legalistic righteousness but about humility, faith, and trust in God alone. Finally, I saw the soul of someone consumed by their own pride. Someone who had refused to acknowledge their need for God's mercy. This person had lived a life of prideful self-sufficiency, believing their success and wealth made them untouchable. They had ignored the cries of the hurting, believing their own accomplishments were all that mattered. When they faced judgment, the weight of their selfishness crushed them. Their condemnation served as a reminder that no one is exempt from the need for grace and repentance. Each of these souls had their own reasons for being cast away, but they all shared one common thread. They had placed their trust in something other than God's grace. Their judgment wasn't born from cruelty but from the truth that salvation can never be earned. It is only received through faith and obedience to God's will. As I reached the end of the staircase, I found myself standing before the angels. The angels did not speak right away. They simply looked at me with eyes that seemed to see beyond what was visible. It felt like they were looking into the depths of my soul, into every hidden thought, every secret regret, every action and decision I had ever made. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. There was something about their gaze that forced me to stay, to face the truth I had avoided for so long. The angels didn't need to say a word. The truth was undeniable. My heart, though I had claimed devotion, had been divided. There had been a disconnect between my faith and my actions, between the words I spoke and the life I lived. In the presence of the angels, it was all laid bare. My attempts to justify myself, my moments of self-deception, the compromises I had made. Then as the silence stretched on, I heard the judgment. It wasn't spoken in anger or condemnation, but in a voice filled with sorrow and finality. The angels knew. They knew my heart. They knew where I had failed, where I had allowed the noise of the world to drown out the quiet whisper of God's truth. And in that knowing, they pronounced my fate. I stood there paralyzed by the weight of what had just been revealed. There was no denial, no defense. Everything I had tried to hold on to, every argument I had made to myself about being good enough, crumbled in the face of the truth. The judgment was not random. It was a reflection of everything I had allowed my life to become. The moment I was directed to the left, an overwhelming force gripped me. It was not just physical but spiritual. A pull so heavy, so insistent, that it seemed to consume everything within me. I wanted to resist, to fight, but the more I tried to hold on, the stronger the force became. It wasn't just going downstairs. It felt like the very fabric of my being was being torn away from everything I had ever known, from every bit of light. I tried to cry out, to plead, but my words felt useless in the vastness of the emptiness around me. Please, I begged. I'm sorry. I believed in you. I did all the right things. Please don't. But my pleas echoed back at me unanswered. There was no mercy here. There was no one to hear. I continued to fall, my mind screaming in desperation, but there was no one to hear me. There was no way back. The finality of it, the eternal nature of the separation, was the true horror of my fate. This was not just a moment of despair. It was forever. I woke up with a sudden jolt, as though I had been pulled from the very depths of something dark and cold. The truth that had been revealed to me in that moment before the angels was undeniable, and it haunted me. I had a second chance, a gift I didn't deserve, and I knew I couldn't go back to the way I had been. I couldn't continue pretending that everything would be fine as long as I went through the motions. All right, friends, this brings us to the end of today's experience. Please like and share this video with your friends and families. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on your notification bell to be the first to get updated when we upload a new experience. Stay blessed.